Meteorologist Casey Cloud here in the Weather Center watching a severe thunderstorm in the Orange Park area right now. A severe thunderstorm warning is in play at about 5:30 for parts of Clay, Duval, and St. Johns counties. It looks like at about 4:50 or so, the National Weather Service was tracking a severe storm over Lakeside or near Orange Park, moving east at 20 miles an hour. Now, there have been a couple different downburst signatures with this storm. The Weather Service talking about them all being centered around Orange Park, though, in northeastern Clay County and southern Duval County. And I'll show you what they're talking about here as we kind of go under the hood with our velocity mode. You can see here an enhancement of velocities to the south of Lakeside, so that's something to watch. I'm talking about the brighter reds here on the screen there, and then we also have a signature there where we have the greens and reds coming together between Lakeside and Orange Park. Really, I'll back this up so you can kind of see what I'm talking about, and even as we kind of zoom a little bit here out, we'll be able to kind of just get a little bit of a grasp for the region. You see, of course, I-95 later on might be an area to watch, but these downburst signatures were even a little more well defined a few frames ago, and that's where the warning was issued. But you kind of see how things are going right now. We're tracking things very carefully here in the Weather Center. You see some stronger wind near Doctor's Inlet, so we just have to be kind of on guard there in that vicinity. I know you're also hearing thunder toward Radford County. I know I'm hearing it, and that's from a separate cell here. We're getting some of the action to come into focus there down toward the Graham area between Brooker and Hampton. You're seeing some pretty heavy rain, some lightning around, getting towards Sampson too. So a nasty evening overall for that evening commute in towards some of our different spots. So got to watch out for that. That's not severe at the moment, but a strong thunderstorm in that vicinity. But again, the reason we're on severe thunderstorm, a couple different downburst signatures in the Doppler radar. We're watching it very carefully, this storm, and the storm here tracking off toward east at 20. We're talking about Orange Park, Mandarin, Fruit Cove, as well as NAS Jacks, Fleming Island, Doctor's Inlet, Bay Meadows, the Lakeside area, Oakley there, Bel Air, Meadowbrook Terrace too. So again, just going to be watching things very carefully there around Orange Park over the next little bit with those downburst signatures within the Doppler radar algorithms. You're seeing what I'm talking about here as we kind of zoom around, look at things pretty carefully. Again, just going to continue to track things over the next little bit as I kind of go ahead now and zoom on out. I want to talk about some more storms here toward the northeast. See a storm toward Clinton County, and we're watching some of that action there. No significant weather advisory there. That's the level below us there. Thunderstorm warning. And then we're looking off toward Valdosta. You see some storminess there too, but a significant weather advisory that's in play toward Bradford. We're watching that storm. I know we had another one of those toward Laurie earlier. Started to see some weakening after a while with that action as it was moving across there earlier on at least. But again, we're still watching things very carefully. I'll go ahead and take a look here at some of our different modes of the Doppler radar. In fact, we're looping things right now, so let me take off these significant weather advisories. You see here some of that storminess was actually around Laurie earlier. It kind of translated here into action further up toward the north around Orange Park. But just seeing how things kind of come together, because we also have a threat here off toward the west. I'll go ahead and go to the whole area view now because this will be kind of an intriguing map to show everybody here. As we're monitoring the situation, you do see some storminess here toward Tallahassee, but even more off there toward Pensacola. We have a line trying to get going and could have some warnings along that in association with that. As the evening does go on, you have the marginal risk here in play. We have a risk for some hail, large hail possibly, and also damaging winds. And again, the downburst signatures being noted on the Doppler radar there toward the Orange Park area. This is a thunderstorm located at 502 over Bel Air, Meadowbrook Terrace, or Orange Park, moving east at 15. So a pretty slow mover, meaning a rainfall producer that's going to be pretty efficient here. Orange Park, Mandarin, Fruit Cove, NAS Jacks, Fleming Island, Doctor's Inlet, Bay Meadows, Lakeside, Bel Air, Meadowbrook Terrace, and Switzerland. So again, watching things very carefully here in toward parts of the region. Over the last hour or so in terms of rainfall, you see the lighter blue colors here, indicative of around an inch of rain, give or take. You see more of that out toward the west, southern Union County, getting toward Worthington Springs there, an inch, inch and a half even. So getting that rainfall to really add on up here across our area. And we'll go ahead and zoom out just a little bit more to see our storm parameters, our energy values. We have those in play, quite a bit of those in toward regions here, kind of coming together to produce some severe weather. It's isolated. They're not extreme parameters. Now the energy values are at our highest though, and we're going to continue to watch things pretty carefully with those here as we are watching the overall setup. But let's go ahead and zoom back on in. I might take a break here in just a moment, as this is just one area of the viewing circle we're talking about with a severe thunderstorm warning. Sometimes we won't come on for the random type warnings, but with this being earlier on here in the ward, I guess you could almost call it a summertime pattern. And then as we're talking here also with the more populated areas being impacted, I wanted to make sure we're on because this is a pretty highly populated zone here toward Orange Park. So we're going to continue to track things with this. Let's go to analyst. I have analyst up here. That's going to help us out do some different inspections of this storm. So I'm going to go ahead and get that set up real quick. This is really helpful in these situations. Kind of gives us an idea of exactly how things look here in a three-dimensional way. So let's go ahead now and go over toward analyst. I have our cross-section mode up. We'll be able to see what we're talking about there. And this kind of shows you just how tall the thunderstorm axis is there toward Orange Park. You see as we're looking up there, I'll go ahead and put a look here with my mouse up. And you can kind of see here getting there 30,000 feet with some of this. So indicative of a nasty storm here for sure. Strong, severe storm when you get them higher up into the atmosphere like this, capable of more severe accident. When you have downbursts, sometimes you have the storms kind of bringing that wind down. The storms kind of sowing that wind here in terms of our velocity modes, and then dropping that wind down closer toward the surface. So weather service now talking about outflows moving toward the Mandarin area in southern Duval County. So we're going to continue to watch to see how things kind of evolving here. I know outflows sometimes from stronger winds also can fuel some other storms sometimes as well, or cause other accent, indicate other accent is weakening. So something to watch for here. Let's go ahead and move away from this. We'll go back over toward our other mode of the Doppler now. Just interesting to see that from a three-dimensional perspective though, as we get between some of our different areas here, as we're trying to give you the very latest information on this Tuesday. Going back in again now, I think we'll zoom on in. There's a small hail threat with this, but it's one that's limited to maybe about 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Just looking here at some of our different tools, you can kind of see some different values here. Interesting to see a little dropout there in southern Duval. I don't think that's really associated with anything. That's probably just a little bit of an echo here that we should just ignore at this point. But we're watching some strong storms toward the north. I see some strong accent in toward Duval, eastern Duval. You see some of that. And then the storm in Bradford, where you're hearing some of that thunder. We're hearing the thunder here. It's because of the accent down toward Hampton at this point, getting close to Hampton Lake. So again, you're seeing some of that accent come on in there. You see the wind values. These are only at about 30 or so. I'm not really getting a downburst signature. I mean, it could be a little stronger. You never know because we're not right at the radar site per se like we are with this storm toward Jacksonville, and you're not able to see things quite as good. But nonetheless, a strong storm, but not a severe storm here down toward Bradford County, it doesn't look like. But again, a severe storm toward the Orange Park area. Some downburst signatures in play here. Some wind enhancement. The color's not as bright necessarily as you would see in some severe storm situations, but it's because we have the two colors coming together, not in a tornadic way, not in a tight gate-to-gate way, but in a downburst type of way, and that brings that wind down to the surface and can cause some issues, pretty quick issues. And this is what you start to deal with during the summertime here when you get those high gust of winds to come on down there. So again, watching things carefully. I know toward Bradford County, we did have a gust toward Stark here at 19 miles an hour. A little bit earlier on when we were watching some of that other action. 73 degrees now, though. It's definitely cooled off some toward Stark and where I'm at in Bradford County. So that might help limit some of the severe potential later on. We'll just have to wait and see. But this action has weakened some over the last little bit into toward Bradford, so that's good news. But we'll go back up toward the north now. We're looking here at some of this. You see the storm warning that came into play for the Orange Park area. We'll get down to street level mapping and you can kind of see some of the areas being impacted. Heavy rain right now near Orange Park. Now the wind potential not as much there, so let's kind of focus with some of the streets where you have the higher wind potential. So it looks like Rising Oaks Drive east there, also over toward Blanche Road, Leeburn Court. You kind of get the idea. Brady Road here with some of this higher wind potential maybe under this severe thunderstorm warning. And then as we look down toward the south, maybe down toward Farm Way, also getting toward Broadhaven Court, some higher wind values showing up within the Doppler algorithm. So we'll continue to watch things. I'm going to take a break for about 5 minutes or so, gather more details. I know the outflow boundary is something to watch as it's been moving toward the Mandarin area in southern Duval County. We'll see how things kind of evolve over the next little bit. And we'll let you know more here in just a few minutes. Again, severe thunderstorm warning continuing to about 5:30 or so for parts of St. John's, Clay, and Duval, northwestern St. John's, northeastern Clay, and southeastern Duval. They'd be specific, not Pacific, of course. I'm not talking about the Pacific Ocean here, but to be specific. 60-mile-an-hour wind gust, some damage to roof siding and trees possible in that isolated manner here toward Orange Park, Mandarin, Fruit Cove, NAS Jacks, Fleming Island, Doctors Inlet, Bay Meadows, Lakeside, Belleville, Meadowbrook Terrace, and Switzerland. We'll be back in a few minutes. Back here in the Weather Center at 5:15, meteorologist Casey Cloud tracking things very carefully. Severe thunderstorm warning continues for the Orange Park area. Now our wind signature's not as well defined, not quite as well defined, so that's some good news here. As we're looking, you can kind of see how things are going with the brighter colors. We are seeing a little bit of something though as we're looking toward County Road 15A though. So we'll see if something kind of reemerges here in terms of a downburst signature, and still have a broad downburst signature here near, it looks like Turkey Scratch Way. So I'm just going to continue to watch things here since this is in such a highly populated area. I'll probably get some reports in if we're seeing some damage here from this severe thunderstorm on this Tuesday afternoon here in May, starting to get I-95 there impacted, I-295 of course being impacted as well here by this. So something to watch, something to track of course here. And we're going to try to get up some cameras. In fact, I have some Florida 511 cameras here on standby, so we're going to try to punch those up here in just a moment. It takes just a second to get into that because of how we have to do things, so just bear with me, but it's really helpful to be able to get some of these cameras up to show you exactly what's happening there. We're not just kind of guessing here with this stuff. When we pull up our cameras, we're able to actually give you a visual there on what's going on towards some of the different regions here of the viewing circle. I-295 should be pretty helpful here for us, so we'll go ahead and effort some of that video in that vicinity there in Duval County, getting pretty nasty conditions, making for a really nasty commute home there on this Tuesday. So quite a few different camera options, so we'll try to get one of the best ones here in just a moment. Looks like 295 south of Hexter Drive is a pretty good one here, so let's go ahead and get that loaded in the computer. Now sometimes the shots change pretty quick, so that's just the nature of summertime type storms that are evolving, but this one's a pretty good one, so we'll go ahead and effort that video now and load that in toward our system, because we'll be able to kind of say you how things are, not the speculating based on Doppler radar imagery, actually giving you that look outside at the weather situation. Is always helpful to be able to see how you and your family, your friends are being impacted by nasty storms here. So without further ado, here you go. That viewpoint there does show what's going on in toward the vicinity. You see a lot of the lights on. That's what you want to do, of course, with the actual headlights on, those bright lights, to be able to see other drivers in a situation like this here, because it's pretty nasty, pretty stormy. You see some of that wind blowing, not showing a huge amount of wind here on this shot, but just a nasty evening commute, something that I haven't necessarily dealt with all that much here. I mean, once you get towards summertime, though, you start to deal with that more and more frequently. It's just the nature of things, and that's what we're seeing right now toward I-295 east south of Hexter Drive there in Duval County. So that's your visual on what's happening there. Always interesting to be able to look outside. We'll now move away from that, though, keeping an eye on some of the different cameras for sure. We'll just go ahead and zoom back on into the action. Again, this warning, it does continue for another 11 minutes. The severe thunderstorm warning. Nothing tornadic with this. That's the good news. Just downburst signatures. We are still seeing some downburst signatures here. So it'd be interesting to see what the Weather Service does. I know the criteria for these storms here are a little bit different when you're getting this time of year. So a little different type of scenario that's going on here. But you see a little bit of a downburst signature maybe near, it looks like Parliament Place there. Also getting toward a few other roads in here. I mean, a lot of other roads, but some notable that are popping up. Clydesdale Drive there, and then some wind enhancement toward County Road 15A. We talked about that earlier. We are also seeing, by the way, a storm that is potentially tornadic in Texas. Well, we're on. I always like to talk about other things when we're on, when there's stuff not in the area that's relevant toward other regions. So let's go ahead and go over there now. They've had some tornadic action in toward parts of eastern Texas here today, southeastern Texas. Report of a tornado earlier. So we'll go ahead and send you on over to our GR Earth computer now. we were to see what's going on. A tornado warning in play for parts of Trinity and Houston counties in Texas. Now, this is a rural area, not Houston, Texas. Houston counties to the north. A little confusing, I guess, but Houston is way down here as we move the map down. But we do have a tornado warning here, pretty far away from Houston. Some severe thunderstorm warnings, a severe thunderstorm watch in play as well. Talking about a couple different ones here. So that's something to monitor. The one toward College Station, Lufkin goes until about 9 o'clock Central. One out here toward San Antonio, Houston goes until about 10 o'clock Central. So just interesting to watch this from a national perspective here, what's going on. But let's get back to our local weather. We are seeing a storm here toward Bradford County. You're not seeing much lightning here now toward areas of 301 and Hampton. That's good. I'm still hearing some thunder where I'm at, though. You get some lightning here, though. That's showing up toward I-75. We'll see how that kind of evolves. But our severe weather toward Orange Park, moving off even toward the east at this point pretty slowly. So we're adding up those rainfall totals. And I know just while we're on here, I know sometimes once you get toward this season, you're also starting to watch out for tropical cyclones and actually getting into hurricane season itself. And flooding's a hazard with that, other hazard as well. And we're breaking all that down on our hurricane special Friday at 7:30 on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Go to all those platforms. They'll be live. And if you're not able to watch, I know the Bradford High School spring game at that time, watching that action there, maybe you can watch the hurricane special on demand, of course. So giving you multiple ways there to watch, and again on demand as well. Hurricane special, going to be talking about some different things that are important. We'll be looking at those names, for instance, and just talking about some preparedness tips as well, because it's important to know what's going on, give you a season forecast, look back at last year, some other historic storms around as well. So big special Friday night, 7:30 on the different platforms of Clouds Weather. Just want to kind of make sure you know about that. If you haven't been watching the morning updates, we'll continue to talk about that hurricane special. We are at Hurricane Preparedness Week as we're getting ready for hurricane season. I know a lot of early season storms have evolved here lately, even an early season storm for the Pacific, where the hurricane season starts on May 15th. And they're already seeing a tropical system out there, Andre. So just kind of interesting what's going on with that. We'll talk about what's going to be happening here, or potentially. It's hard to really give too much of a forecast, but again, I already wanted to get prepared with that. Storms like Beryl, early season-wise here. That was a Memorial Day. I mean, that was almost a Cat 1 hurricane that was moving through our area here on the first coast. So it's just important to be ready here. Just watch out for things that come about in the overall grand scheme. But let's go ahead and zoom back out again. Severe thunderstorm warning here for parts of Duval, Clan, St. John's for another 7 minutes or so. We're continuing to watch. We're going to go ahead and switch over, in fact, here toward our other mode of the Doppler again. Always interesting to be able to go between our different modes to look under the hood, kind of give an x-ray of the storminess here. It's really helpful. So let's go ahead now and switch you back on over here. Just gonna have to watch out for that downburst potential hail threat. Not too significant, actually. Some of the higher hail values still went up earlier with the storm that was in Bradford County. Not even severe warned or severe in terms of the criteria. I didn't meet that, but just seeing that for a little bit earlier on. We're seeing some hail up toward areas there northwest of Gainesville. So something to watch. Small hail that would be, but looking toward Clinton County, some lightning there as well in southern Georgia. We have the storms off toward the west. We'll just be keeping an eye on everything here for you. And speaking of keeping an eye on everything, we'll go ahead now and take off, I know, some of this other information here, because we have our day one outlook. We've talked about a convective threat that's right on the edge of it, and that can happen sometimes, especially this time of year. This is our severe threat for today, where that severe threat and severe conditions be more favorable. And then as we look ahead now toward your Wednesday, our severe weather threat here in play, you'll kind of be able to see where we're talking. I know I-95 was covered a little bit more earlier, but doesn't really matter exactly. Just this is a general idea of where the storm's going to evolve here, more north than south overall, where the higher rain chances will be. But We'll continue to track things here. Of course, cloudweather.com/radar is a good place to go when there's not severe weather. And speaking of there not being severe weather, we just lost that warning here toward parts of Clay as well as Duval and St. John's. It's been expired by the National Weather Service in Jacksonville, so that's some really good news here. Seeing that wind potential weaken on down. That storm there is no longer poses an immediate threat to life and property. Therefore, the warning will be allowed to expire here at 5:30, but gusty winds, heavy rain still possible with the thunderstorms. So we'll go ahead and try to write this out at about 5:30 before we wrap up the coverage here. And we'll just have to keep an eye on things throughout the evening to see if any more severe storms are detected by the Doppler radar algorithms. So let's go ahead now and broaden things out. I'm going to go to a Florida view, actually. I don't always use this view. This is kind of interesting. So let's go over to our dear Earth computer now. You see a flash flood warning out toward areas of Okaloosa County and the Florida Panhandle. I know Weather Prediction Center talking earlier. They've been watching some training rain activity even toward the Big Bend. So just always got to watch out for some isolated flooding potential. Not an extreme threat, but an isolated flooding threat indeed. So we'll continue to watch here between 2 and 3 and 1/4 of an inch of rain having fallen there, and the expected rainfall rate of 3.25 inches in an hour is a threat there toward parts of northwestern Florida, parts of Okaloosa County to be precise. Now, this is from a few minutes ago with that imagery with that thunderstorm warning in play, just kind of backing that up to see what's going on there with that expiration. But again, still watching things carefully here. You have the storminess off toward the west, so this is what we're going to be watching for Tallahassee later on to see how things kind of evolve, because we still have the energy values in play here. Now, in terms of any tornado parameters, we're not really seeing that as to not be a threat. I mean, unless we get a quick spin up, maybe some type of boundary interacting, something like that. But that's really not our type of threat that we're tracking. It's not a tornado type of day by any stretch of the imagination here toward North Florida, South Georgia, and that's definitely good news. And now in terms of supercells, that threat's pretty low too, but not zero, as you can see here with our parameters. And then our helicity values, looking at some of those here, we're seeing some values, but they're not enough to show up in our color date tables here, so that's some good news. But again, severe thunderstorm warning expired out for Clay, Duval, St. John's. Now, speaking of storms, though, I know a new tornado warning just got issued toward the Lone Star State. I've seen some of that action in play there. Northeast of Huntsville, I know they have Sam Houston in the college football national championship game for FCS, and watching some tornadic action there just to the north and east, potentially with those radar indicated areas there. So just gotta continue to see how things are going. It looks like actually the area has kind of tracked a little bit different than maybe was expected. At least looking at our rotation tracker, I'm not looking under the hood at storm relative, but just kind of looking at that overall from a broader perspective. So something they're watching out there, not something we need to necessarily be on for, though. I will say the rotation and the wind values have shown up tight today. I was looking even this morning, we had a storm with a tornado possible tag in the Lone Star State, and it had some really high wind values showing up aloft. Now, we're looking really high up in the storm, and that's one reason you have to issue these. We already had a tornado reported earlier, and it's just hard to be able to tell exactly what's going on. Of course, this is our local radar here, no longer seeing a warning in play. But let's go over toward Texas. You see toward Glendale, Texas here in the next little bit, and south of Lovelady, seeing something, maybe 2 circulations involved here. Something, I know I had it up earlier, and now we're going back again. It's kind of hard to say. I'm not focusing too much on this, but yeah, I think there are 2 circulations here. And I mean, just seeing some different areas. We're so high up, though, so it gets muddied here, and the Weather Service has to be really careful and just make sure people are protected here from any type of possible tornado threat that could evolve. So, tornado warnings there in Texas. Of course, follow local stations. I know toward Tyler, toward Lufkin, they're watching that potential color station, possibly watching that potential as well. The TV market's kind of in a little bit of a muddied fast in there. So, of course, the local stations, though, whatever's on, that's what you want to follow there toward that part of southeastern Texas. So, we'll go ahead and broaden the view back out. It's time to go ahead and wrap things up now that we're at 5:30. We'll go ahead and wrap things up now. You see the temperatures cooler here toward north central Florida, the first coast. Hopefully that'll limit some of the action later on, but you have some warmer temperatures off toward the west. We'll see how things evolve toward Tallahassee. There is that threat of an isolated strong to severe storm coming into the picture there in terms of some of that accent strengthening, or maybe a storm even out ahead of things, kind of trying to come together here and be severe for a little bit. Speaking of Tallahassee, let's go to the and oh, it looks like we just got a new warning, so I guess we're going to stick with you a little longer here, folks. It's sometimes while we stay on a little longer. We just got a new warning for parts of Clay, Duval, and St. John's, so we'll go back to that here in just a second. But here's the FSU weather stem camera. You see us and trying to peek on out there, but kind of seeing how things are lining on up there toward Tallahassee. But again, it looks like we just got a new warning. Unfortunately, this is kind of how it can go sometimes. So let's go ahead and go back down toward Clay, Duval, and St. John's. A severe thunderstorm warning now for a storm located over Fruit Cove, moving east at 20, Green Cove Springs, Fruit Cove, Wargoff Village, Sawgrass, South Ponte Vedra, Nocatee, Bayard, as well as Guana River State Park and Volcano Beach. So weather service saying the storm peaked up right on the St. Johns River near Switzerland and Fruit Cove. So that can happen. It's a situation where we're on a really thin line, per se, between severe and not severe this time of year. It's a little harder to detect than what we see sometimes during maybe the early parts of spring, getting toward the winter months as well, when we have stuff that's a little more obvious. But to seeing the storminess, the strength in there right into the St. Johns. So let's go back over to our velocity mode now. We'll look at the wind potential, and you're able to see some of this here. It's not really showing up all that high in terms of our wind values, but we're seeing downburst signatures try to develop here. So this is something you have to kind of be mindful of as we are looking here overall. So new warning, I'll go ahead and read off the details. Northern St. John's, as well as eastern Clay and southeastern Duval until 6:15. At 5:30, a severe thunderstorm was located over Fruit Cove, moving east at about 20 miles an hour. Green Cove Springs, Fruit Cove, Wargoff Village, Sawgrass, South Ponte Vedra, as well as Nocatee, Bayard, Durbin, and even over toward the Guana River State Park and Volcano Beach. Just trying to emphasize some of those locations for you here on this Tuesday evening during that evening commute. Got to watch out 495 here. Again, things don't look all that high within the velocity values, but still have to just track things as they are moving across the region. You're just seeing some of this potential here, going to ultimately getting toward areas like Hilton, it looks like near State Highway 5. So that's something they'll be tracking a little bit later on. Right now, though, the worst of this potential, as we just got an update on our scan, right there near Greenbrier Road, and even getting here as we go ahead and go back to the other readout for a second, seeing maybe some accident near Belmont Drive there, over toward with some more of the storminess up toward Florala Court. So again, it's a bit thunderstorm warning in play. Now we can look at some other parameters as well. Our ZDR kind of showing some strengthening here. When you have those reds showing up, that's an indication of a strengthening area of storminess. As we kind of look at some more of this, you see a little bit more of that with some more storms. But you see toward Bradford, we're not seeing that, and that's indications of weakening decay here. But toward Alachua, you see here some strengthening in toward that vicinity. That's a sign of an increase in intensity. So that's near I-75 there. We'll go back over toward the storminess here in toward parts of Duval, St. John's, and Clay. Again, right there, St. John's River, Switzerland, Fruit Cove, severe thunderstorm warning until 6:15. Seeing maybe an indication of some hail in there, not sure. It's an interesting signature right in the middle of all this. That could be hail or maybe some type of wind enhancement showing up. Not really seeing that within the velocities though. So this is always interesting to kind of pay attention here to correlation coefficient, because that can detect tornado debris, but I don't think that's what we're seeing here. Not in this type of situation. This enhancement there, the more it looks like as we get down here towards some street level mapping, Bagpipe Court. So Just seeing that interesting within our algorithms. Now, rainfall is going to become a bigger threat over the last hour or so. Orange Park around 2 inches, and now our storm total amounts are starting to pick on up. Going to pick on up more in the Polygon, but Orange Park getting 1.5 inches, 2 inches here. Parts of northeastern Duval County getting over an inch, close to an inch and a half. Parts of Bradford getting a pretty good amount of rain. West of Laurie over an inch. Lake Butler, inch and a half. You see that around Alachua County, south of Gainesville, over an inch. So definitely seeing this rainfall out on up in isolated areas. But where I'm at, we haven't picked up much. Just 2/100ths of an inch. Actually, I hadn't even heard it rain that much, but I did measure in the rain gauge 2/100ths of an inch here. Rain toward eastern Bradford, toward areas there near the Stark Golf and Country Club. So I'm going to continue to track this here. Give you the latest update. You see, especially marine warning towards southeastern Georgia. We're going to take a break in the coverage to about 5:45, but just continue to watch things here. Make sure when thunder roars, you want to go indoors. I'll go ahead and bring in some of our safety tips real quick. In fact, some of our safety tips can be helpful in this situation. Just make sure you're seeking shelter in a sturdy building and stay away from windows when you have a severe thunderstorm warning in play. And then also it's interesting to watch our power outage maps as well. Gonna go ahead and pull some of that information up here. That can be important to see to kind of get a gauge on how strong things really are in terms of causing any damage, because radar looks at things down there above the surface, but when you're getting within our power outage information, that indicates damage at the surface that may have occurred from a severe thunderstorm. And we do have some power outages. Nothing extreme showing up. Marion actually the most, but that area sometimes with the storminess that can occur, you can see some of those numbers go up a little bit more there. So let's go ahead and punch that up. We have our power outage.us map here on the board. You see Flagler County, not seeing much there. St. John's, 54 customers out. Clay County, we'll go to Duval in a moment, but 184 in Clay County in terms of the customers out. None in Duval right now. Baker, Bradford, pretty limited. Alachua limited, but Marion, 1,717. So just kind of interesting to break that down. I do see Brevard County quite a few outages as well. Haven't had a severe storm there, but still just kind of interesting to see how things can go. I mean, I know last Monday we had quite a few customers out of power in Clay County there on a hot day there. So something that can not necessarily be because of lightning or the wind, just can also have some other influences as well. So we'll be back about 5:45 with more. Stay tuned for the latest. Back here in the Weather Center at 5:45, we're continuing to watch a severe storm here in the Fruit Cove area. Something to definitely track here, as it is showing some areas here with magenta colors being present even. So let's go ahead and zoom on in. You see this right here near Greenbrier Road. That could be an indication of some smaller hail. Nothing extreme here overall. Just expecting to be a quick downburst of wind. That's why the warning's in play, because even though we haven't had any reports into the Weather Center yet, just got to watch out for maybe a quick downburst of wind, something like that here. You have that lightning, you have those heavy downpours, which are probably more disruptive to the evening commute even, and worse, that's about to cross there over I-95, so that's definitely something to be aware of here. As we zoom on out, you see some storminess near I-75 impacting an evening commute there toward High Springs, toward Alachua, for instance. So even Newberry getting the action there as well near State Highway 26. So again, seeing that, a pretty nasty action there. And in fact, I did just note that a severe thunderstorm warning got issued here just out to the west of our counties there in the Big Bend. So let's go ahead and pop that up to give you a warning, because it may go off here in a little bit. Would go off if there's no warnings probably in play for our region here at 6:15. But did just get a warning until about 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. Come on down here for parts of Bay, Calhoun, Jackson, and Washington counties in the Florida Panhandle. So that's something we have to monitor here later on. You see out toward Bluntstown there, a severe thunderstorm warning now in place. Southern Jackson, northeastern Bay, Calhoun, and southeastern Washington. Weather Service in Tallahassee talking about they're watching a storm there in far northern Bay, southeastern Washington. It's pulsed up here last 10 minutes, so it's a thunderstorm warning issued for the primary threat of damage and winds moving east at about 30 miles an hour. So in an hour, it's going to be getting close here, maybe just crossing into where Liberty, Gadsden County area, something like that here. So we'll just pay attention to see if that moves into our zone as severe later on. It's associated with that action there off toward the west, as you can kind of see here. Maybe a little out ahead of it, as you can kind of see when we back it up. But again, I also see a storm out ahead of it now with some lightning that's kind of being enhanced a little bit there. Southeast of Bluntstown and Liberty County, you see some lightning there toward parts of Decatur County as we get close there, just north of Chattahoochee, south of Reynoldsville. Getting into some of that, and not seeing too much though toward areas here around Live Oak, Swanee Valley. But then as we get down toward Alachua, again, you do have the strong storminess excuse me, in play here toward parts of Alachua County. So we'll track that. You see Palm Coast here, some lightning danger there in Flagler County. So we'll kind of keep our eyes on that. But a severe storm warning in play at 6:15 for parts of Duval, Clay, and St. John's. At 5:30, severe thunderstorm located over Fruit Cove, moving east at about 20 miles an hour. So just make sure you're inside and away from windows. This isn't an extreme situation, but just always got to be on the safe side here. And looking at rainfall, you see some of the areas over the last hour that have picked up more rain than others, or rain versus no rain. And then over the last 12 hours or so, you can kind of see here the swaths of the rain. More in northern Florida here than southern Georgia at this point. But overall, we're still supposed to see more rain in towards southern Georgia here. Kind of going to be seeing how the numbers come together. I see down toward southeastern Marion, picking up close to 3 inches of rain here east of Bellevue still. It looks like our rainfall total winter here in our region as of now is towards southeastern Marion County. So always interesting to watch out there. But again, some storms in play, or afternoon type storms in some ways, but get an enhancement of that, and that's what we have the marginal risk in play. We're going to have some cooler weather trying to come on in as we're looking toward Thursday, and then Friday clearing on out some more, and then seeing those temperatures on that warming trend for your weekend. We're talking about it this morning here on our update. We'll be back, of course, tomorrow morning with another full update here as well from the Weather Center as we watch things here. You see some of that cooler air off toward the north and west right now overall. Kind of interested to see that. And you see some tornadic weather toward Lone Star State there near Trinity, Crockett, not far from Lufkin at this point, with tornado warning polygons in play. A new one just issued there for parts of Trinity, as well as Houston and Polk counties in southeastern Texas. So just gotta watch areas of rotation within the Doppler algorithm, something to track for sure. trees down south of Crockett there, and then also a large tree down on a highway there, Highway 90, just north of a community in Grimes County, Texas. So nasty weather there overall, but again, we're more focused on our weather here, our region. But just wanted to touch on that while we're on. We're kind of just giving you the latest while we're giving you the update here on the storminess toward parts of St. Johns County. Again, not all that impressive, but you can't ever discount a downburst situation. And speaking of just nasty storms, the storm near Newberry may get a warning here soon, guys. Let's go ahead and go over to analysts because I'm starting to see something in that storm a little bit more. So let me go ahead and get that on the screen so we can kind of look here at what is going on in the upper levels or further away on the Doppler radar algorithm with that, but you'll still be able to kind of get an idea of what's going on. You see toward Newberry there, that indication of hail, maybe around an inch in diameter, so that's why we might get a warning. We're pretty far away on the radar, but just got to be careful there in western Alachua County. And then in terms of a cross section here of the storm, you can see getting up there pretty high with the overall storminess up into where the atmosphere, and that's indications, and that is an indication of stronger storm action overall. So you see getting upward to about 25,000 feet, closer even to 30,000 feet here with some of this. So again, a strong storm, probably going to get a warning on that, I would think. We're further from the radar, so it's not a guarantee we'll get a warning. It's harder to actually know what's actually happening there, closer toward the ground level. But again, a strong storm near Newberry in western Alachua County now. We're going to keep our eyes on that. But back on over to the broad perspective as we continue to see how things are going here. You see the storm there sewing up toward Alachua. We'll go ahead and put our hail swath product on now too as we're looking in that Newberry vicinity. And we'll pop that on our screen so you can kind of see what we're talking about there. This is indications of smaller hail on this product, which generally does a better job. And in fact, we didn't get a warning per se, but we just got a significant weather advisory issued. So that's kind of helpful to know what's going on in terms of that at least. So that just got issued. Let's go ahead and show you that perspective on our other source. I know we have quite a few sources here, so you have to kind of bear with me as we sit between them. Just trying to give you the best visual, and it's just me. It's not like we have producers in the back or people there in the back that are kind of guiding the coverage. It's just me here, so sometimes it makes it a little more difficult to switch between some of our sources. But you see the significant weather advisory now. Small hail and winds in excess of 45 being indicated. Strong thunderstorm 8 miles south of Alachua or 11 miles west of Gainesville, moving east at 20. Locations included in the threat for a strong storm include but are not limited to Gainesville, Alachua, Archer, University of Florida, Gainesville Airport, Noonan's Lake, Rochelle, Waldo, Micanopy, and La Crosse. So a strong storm there in western Alachua County. You see that within our algorithms. Just looking at some different things here. Getting a hail signature, it looks like here. I know we zoomed in really tight, but I've seen something there that's lining up with a hail signature with the spot that is indicative of that. So not sure how much is reaching the ground. Probably some small hail is occurring here as we're looking south of State Road 26 right now here and off toward northeast here of US 27. So a severe thunderstorm warning, not employed here. We did have a severe thunderstorm warning in the northeast. That just got dropped though, which is great news obviously. Just got dropped by the Weather Service in Jacksonville. You don't see as much of that wind energy, maybe more wind energy forming toward the west of I-75. So we'll keep tracking that. We'll watch the storms off to the west too, because could get a warning in toward the Big Bend. We'll go ahead and go off for now though after we look at the UF Weather Stem camera. Granted, we don't get a warning for our area in the next couple of minutes, but let's go ahead and pop up the UF Weather Stem camera real quick as we watch that small hail potential in western Alachua with some gusty wind potential as well. We're going to go ahead and see if we can get up our UF Weather Stem camera. We do have that in our computer here, in our toolkit. It will take me just a second, though. I gotta go ahead and switch things up just a little bit here. So bear with me as we go between our different cameras as we're watching things on this Tuesday evening now. I know that evening commute being impacted by some of the storminess around. So just got to be careful here with the strong storms. But that warning there off toward the north and east did get dropped by the Weather Service. You see it frame ago. Got canceled. Gusty winds, heavy rain possible, but no longer at this point an immediate threat to life and property. But we're going to continue to look at some of our different viewpoints here of the acts, and definitely intriguing to be able to tell you some different shots here of what is going on as we get out there toward areas of the viewing circle. So now let's go ahead. I have it up in our system. We have it up now, so let's go ahead and punch up the UF Weather Stem camera toward parts of Gainesville. You see what's going on there. You see that perspective. You see the storminess coming on in here, folks. So it kind of tells the story here toward parts of Alachua County, getting into some of that there for sure. And we'll have to see if that goes severe. We'll let you know, of course, if it does toward parts of central Alachua in the next little bit. But right now, western Alachua getting some of the worst of the storminess. These storms are moving pretty slow at this point, so that can help in the weakening of things. But we're going to see how things kind of transpire. You see there right east of Newberry, getting into the worst of this right now. Again, seeing that wind potential, some of that hail potential here. We're looking further up, so it's hard to know exactly what's reaching the surface as we're over 6,000 feet up here with this. We have the storms here as I'm looking at hail, our hail signature increasing. So I think I'm going to stay with this another frame because I hate to cut away and get a warning, because our product that does a little bit better job here overall with this has it close to severe now. So let's see if we can get this down a little bit before we go off, because it's generally is what Weather Service likes to use, something that is a little bit better at detecting the hail, and it's now showing hail upward about 9/10 of an inch, and we only need to get to an inch for a warning to be issued. So we'll watch to see if this changes here, but this is the last hour, so just the last frame or so. Really starting to see that pick on up as you get that isolated there on the screen. So again, going to be watching that here, that hail potential maybe pick on up a little bit. We'll give you the alert, even if we go off here and we get a warning toward Gainesville. This is a heads up about what may be coming in here a little bit later on toward central Alachua. You also have the warning off toward the west of our area, which could ultimately get in toward our region here later on toward Liberty, toward Gadsden. You see there the worst of this north of Youngstown in the Florida Panhandle. This moving off toward the east there at about 30 miles an hour. That damaging wind gust potential, our biggest concern with this wind hail. They're going to be watching for that. Don't see too much in terms of rotation there. And in terms of the last hour of rain, you're starting to see that pick on up here overall. Definitely interesting to see that come into view here. Rain chance about 50% today, up to 60 tomorrow and on your Thursday before we dry on out some more. So we'll watch for that. You see our energy value is still up pretty high here. The lower part of the region, interesting to see some of that is pretty high in areas that have seen rain and rain-cooled air, but we'll continue to watch things here for sure. The hail did just drop a little bit on this storm, so I think we're going to leave you for now. We'll start another stream if we need to. We'll be here in the Weather Center watching things. I see that the severe threat just got amended a little bit off toward Louisiana, so let's talk about that. A special outlook just came out. I know that's the national story, so let's go ahead and punch that on up, because this just got changed a little bit, which is unusual. They had to extend it into western Louisiana because of an organized line of severe storms. So an increasing threat there toward parts of West Louisiana around DeRidder, it looks like, and closer toward Lake Charles. So something to watch, and tornado warning in play there. You see that didn't affect our risk area, though, toward our region. Just a marginal risk. We'll be tracking things, we'll be watching things, giving you the latest updates. The hail threat a little bit lower at this point, but if we see things start to ramp up here in terms of a warning being issued, we'll let you know. Just watch out. cloudweather.com/radar, an interactive look when we're not on the air. Thanks so much for tuning in and trusting me for now. I'm meteorologist Casey Cloud.